one of the best things that ever happened to me in my wrestling career up to this point is me breaking my ankle.
My next guest is a dad, but when he's not a dad, he's an international pro wrestling superstar. He is El Campeón de Campeones. I'd like to welcome the shining star, Rey Calitri, to the Tristen Law Show. Rey, what's going on, brother? How are you?
Oh, man. First of all, thank you so much. What an awesome introduction. That was good. That was really, really good. Thank you.
Good.
Other than that, I'm really, really good, man. I'm in good spirits, ready to rock out for tomorrow's show. ECPW TV tapings in Ridgefield Park. I have a few things coming up. As always, you know how the schedule gets, especially when the weather starts warming up a little bit. So very excited for a lot of things that we have lined up.
Let's go way back to the beginning. So on March 31st, 1996, WrestleMania 12 took place in the Arrowhead Pond in Anaheim, California. Why was the 60-minute Iron Man match between Shawn Michaels and then WWF champion Bret Hart pivotal to you liking pro wrestling as a fan?
Well, I enjoyed wrestling before that, but one thing that WWE does very, very well is their storytelling just captivates you. And if you let it, it'll captivate your mind and your heart. And that's what that match did exactly for me. Because I was such a Shawn Michaels guy at the time. I was not a Bret Hart guy. And then it was this whole big draw and everything. And then, I'm like, oh my God, no, what's going on? And then, you see Gorilla Monsoon come out and whatever. And he restarts the match and I start going crazy. And then, and then he captures the boyhood dream and then all that other good storytelling stuff. And that's what captured my heart from there forward. I was hooked.
And that's one of the things I love about being a pro wrestler is that it's about creating the moments for me. Nobody cares about the matches. The matches are nice. The wrestlers, we care about the matches, but it's the people that watch the shows. They care about the moments.
Right. What are they going to remember you for when they leave? Are they going to talk about Tristen's moment or Rey's moment? And it's up to you as the wrestler or performer or entertainer or whatever you decide to call yourself to give people that moment so they can latch on to in their head. So that in the future, they'll be like, okay, ECPW is back in town. Oh, you know what? Let me go see Rey because he did this really cool spot, thing with my son. And it was his birthday. And he sang happy birthday in front of the whole crowd. And it was on TV and all that. So it's little stuff like that goes a long, long way.
So we were talking about moments that made us want to love pro wrestling. What was the moment that you, Rey, decided that you wanted to become a pro wrestler?
I'm going to say it had to have been that moment, that Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart moment. But then, as everyone else growing up, I didn't have the internet, so I didn't know where to look. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't, it was all back in the days, it was all through phone. So I really didn't know. And until I got a little older, when the internet started coming out, late 90s, early 2000s, then information started becoming more available to you. If you were in that back in the days, in the AOL dial-up service with the modem and the the buzzing noise or whatever it made. So I started looking up into schools maybe 13 years ago. It was back in 2006. Well, more than that. Jesus. But yeah, that's that moment. It had to have been that moment because that's the most pivotal moment in my head that I could just I could watch the match and I could still get goosebumps watching it,
So back in 2007-ish, you had the idea to look up pro wrestling schools, and you stumbled upon IWF that's ran by Kevin Knight. What made you start looking up pro wrestling schools on the internet, and why IWF?
I wanted to give it a shot. I sat down with one of my best friends at the time. We were at the mall, and I'm like, yo, listen, I want to, why don't we, because we loved wrestling for so long because of the whole Attitude Era and all that other stuff. We're like, yo, let's just try it. And we're like, yeah, sure, let's go. So we started looking up the internet. And Camp IWF at the time, I don't know if they rebranded themselves or not, but Camp IWF at the time was the one that was most local to me. It was in West Patterson. So it was maybe about a 45-minute drive or so. And I'm not a big fan of heading into New York and driving to the schools and stuff like that out there because traffic is abysmal. You know, everything is much more expensive. I mean, you know, everyone knows watching this. But for the listeners who do not know New York, you know, it's, even though currently I live 8 miles away from New York City, Manhattan, it takes me an hour in 8 miles. So, yeah.
So, like myself,
yep,
you went to a school with wrestlers who have done things in the pro wrestling business and are still doing big things in the world of pro wrestling. And also, like myself, you feel if you never stepped away from pro wrestling, you probably would have been in a different space in the realm of pro wrestling. What made you step away from pro wrestling?
Life. At the time, I started the program, late 2006, early 2007. I graduated the program, I think it was like within 8 months or something like that. You know, they give you the whole certificate, not gift certificate. They give you a whole certificate stating that you completed the course, et cetera, et cetera. So I had my first show in 2007. So I started gaining a real passion for professional wrestling, right? I was super, super green. I didn't know my left from my right, right? But anyway, so that kicked off and I was super excited. And then I had this moment in life where life is just like, not so fast, my friend. At the time, my daughter's mother was pregnant with my daughter. So I felt that my responsibility was to be a family man and you know, do the whole marriage and, you know, all this other stuff in between and try to do the right thing as best as I possibly can. So that's the path that I ended up taking. And it was, it's a weird path, not weird, but it's strange, I should say, because every now and then, even though while I stepped away, those guys that you probably know that you see on TV and that you see them doing stuff that I started with in IWF at that time, they would see me at the local gym and they'd be like, yo, Rey, when you coming back? When you coming back? And I'd be like, oh, you know, I don't know. I'm, you know, doing the bad thing and, you know, just life is just too busy for me. So that's one of the main reasons why I stopped in 2007.
But fast forward now, if anybody comes to the shows, your daughter is your biggest fan out there.
Man. Man, that little girl, she's my manager. She puts everyone straight in line and everything. And she actually just had a birthday. I officially have a teenager in my hands, so that's always fun.
Well, good luck to you, and remember that we were all teenagers once. And bro, yes. You already know if you need somebody to beat some kids up because they're messing with her, just send me a message, bro. I'll be there in Jersey.
I got you. Thank you.
So let's go back to 2007-ish when you had your first show. Were you ready for that match, your first match, and who was your opponent?
Oh, no freaking way! I was not ready. One of the things I learned that I try to preach to the new guys now is, you know, make sure you have gear because you never know if someone gets sick, someone gets into a car accident, someone can't make it, someone just doesn't show up for whatever reason, and you've been training for, I don't know, 9 months or so, and they'll just throw you in a match, and that's essentially what happened to me. One of the guys didn't show up, and they're like, "Hey, Rey, you're wrestling," and here I am, poor me. You know, I bought like these tights from this lady. I forgot her name. She used to do everyone's gear back in the days. She was out of West Patterson. But anyway, I had like these plain black tights, and one of the guys, he goes to me, "Hey, listen, you can't wear that out there. Like, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, what do you mean? Like, this is my first match. I don't know." He goes, "Here, have these tights, whatever." And that guy is Justin Carino. So, you know, Mr. Heavenly Body himself, Mr. Gigolo, you know, he's been all over, you know, Impact and Global Force, and he's wrestled, you know, all over with WrestlePro and stuff like that. So I've actually known him for a long time. So he was actually one of the first ones who gave me the pair of tights there. He's like, "Oh, listen, you know, here, have these. These used to be mine. I don't wear them anymore, whatever." So I had a pair of hand-me-downs, right? And I still have them till this day. I still have them. But no, and my first match was a tag match. It was me and Dan Schwartz. I still remember.
I know Dan.
Yeah, of course. Dan Schwartz, that's my guy. Yeah. He's out in Connecticut.
Yep.
Yeah. It was me and him against Shane O'Brien and I don't remember the other guy's name. And the only reason why I remember Shane O'Brien is because, he was one of those cowboy gimmick guys or whatever, and he took it like really, really serious, like super serious. And one of the things that I remember is backstage, he yells out, "Oh, it's going to be a christening tonight." So, again, I'm young. I'm green to the gills. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? So, one of the boys smartened me up, and he's like, "Yo, just be careful out there, whatever." And, sure enough, one of the first things that was brought into me was chop, right? He gives me this big old chop, and I have no idea what's going on. So he goes to give me another one. So he gives me the other one. And then I just come back and I just start wailing on him, right? I start giving it back to him because, first of all, I was born in Puerto Rico and I was raised in New York, so I already have an attitude, right? So all of that stuff is going in my head. I'm like, yo, why is this guy like really laying it in? But anyway, at the end of the match, he comes up to me and I guess I earned his respect or something. He goes, "Oh, good job, kid, this and that, whatever. You handled your own, whatever." So that made me feel really, really good about myself at the time.
Looking back at that first match, if you could stop yourself before you went through the curtain for that very first time to the world and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Have fun. Just because when you're first starting, you're going to be nervous and all that other stuff. I mean, to this day, I get nervous, but you try to remember so much of what's going on that you forget that you're there because you're there to entertain people. And if you're not having fun, it's going to translate in your body of work. And by fun, I don't mean like being all giggly and stuff. It's just have fun, be into, like do the things that you're into, do the style that you like to do, interact with the fans, make it appealing so that instead of people being down like this on their phones, they're looking at you coming out. So that's what I would tell myself.
You took a little bit of time off from pro wrestling. We talked about that. And you came back in 2018-ish to pro wrestling.
Late.
What made you what made you come back?
You want the real answer? Oh, you want the fake make-believe answer, because of the passion and everything,
They don't want that. The people that are watching and that are listening, they want to know the real you.
The real me. Okay. So real answer is I was going through a real hard time because for the same reason that I stopped wrestling back in 2007 because of my marriage and stuff like that, that is the same reason why I picked up wrestling again in 2018. I was going through a really bad divorce. I was going through all these crazy emotions of, I'm no longer around my child 24/7 now. It's only like, any single dad out there or any, whatever the case is, whoever has kids, they know that it's hard because now you go from 24/7 to once every other weekend. And I took that very, very hard. So for the first year, I partied like a rock star. I was going out all the time and everything. And then, late nights, early mornings type of things. And then I started getting into working out again, right? I'm like, yo, I can't continue this lifestyle of me going out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and, just being out till 2 a.m. And then I got to be at work, work or whatever the case is at 4 a.m. So then I took that, I started working out, and then the working out led to me, I have to do something else with my time. Cause now, I'm sitting in this big old house by myself, which sure, I get to see my kid every other weekend, but I have a lot of free time in my hands. And a lot of free time in a single man's hand means trouble.
Yep.
So I'm trying to stay out of trouble, right? So I was like, yo, why don't I just go and pick up wrestling again, right? So the same best friend that I spoke to back in 2007, I reached out to him again. I'm like, hey, listen, what if we go train out at Gino's? Because I had to do a search and everything. And I knew Gino from before because, he's been around a long, long time. And this is a true story. So we agreed to go I think it was 3 days before Thanksgiving or something like that back in November 2018. So we went, I think it was on a Tuesday, I believe. So I'm warming up. Mind you, I haven't wrestled at that point in 11 years, right? I mean, I've always been a fan of the sport. I watch it here and there as much as I possibly can. But it's just one of those things where when you're good at it, it just comes back to you. So when I'm in there, I'm flowing with my friend who I haven't wrestled with in 11 years. So it was crazy because then Frankie Flow walks in, and Frankie Flow's like, who's this guy? You know, he looks like a Flow and all this other stuff, whatever. So, you know, I introduced myself to Frankie and stuff like that. And then at that point, Gino's like, hey, listen, how would you guys like to wrestle on an upcoming show in 2 weeks? And I'm like, I look at my friend and I'm like, yo, is this guy serious? Like we literally just walked from the street inside. We're training, and he just wants to offer us a match. And you know that never really happens to anyone who's watching. You know, you usually have to pay your dues and stuff. You have to set up the ring, which this is all stuff that I used to do, and I still do to this day. Back in 2007 when I first started, you know, set up the ring, break down the ring, help out with the tickets, set out the chairs, talk to the fans, referee, do the security jobs, do the lighting jobs, make sure that the sound is good, make sure, like, I've done all that stuff since 2007. So for me to be a walk-on, quote unquote, I was in shock, because I'm like, yo, me? Like, what? So that's how everything started back in 2018.
If I had $1 to bet, knowing how ECPW works, I think Frankie Flow co-signed on you. That's why you got it. He co-signed on you right away.
It was funny because Gino put me on the show for the 2 weeks or so, whatever. I guess Frankie Flow co-signs for me, whatever the case is. And then here comes, it was 1 week before the show, and I go back to training, and I'm training with Alex Raymond, right? And I didn't know it at the time. So whatever, he you know, we're going through the ringer and stuff like that. We're going through things. So he wants to see how advanced I am, right? So I'm doing some, I'm doing some pretty advanced stuff for a guy who hasn't been in the ring for 11 years. And I remember Gino coming down the famous little steps that he comes down from his office, and he goes, oh, Alex looks at him. He goes, he's good, man. He's good to go. So I guess that was a quiet tryout, or whatever you want to call it, you know, secret tryout or whatever it was. So ever since then, you know, I got the blessing, and then I've been on for 3 years. So
let me tell you that stamp of ECPW is so old school, and that stamp of approval is everything. Like, I've given stamp of approvals on people, and you know, Gino's given people opportunities because he goes, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, this person's good, or this person needs to work on that. They're not ready yet. But Gino's really old school. And we've been talking about Gino Caruso a lot. I got to get him on this Tristen Law Show. But Ray, I remember befriending you a few years ago when we were both in Gino's ring truck going to an ECPW event. Before, we were pretty much on a high and buy. And I must admit, since you're here now, that was the trip. I can't remember where we went, but I drove. But I remember that was the trip where I was like, I like this brother. He has a good wrestling mind, and we could sit around and talk wrestling all day. But going to the event, you were down because you had an injury, and it halted your progress. Tell us what that injury was and how it halted your goals, and how have you bounced back since?
This is a full circle type of thing. Well, it's half a circle right now, but it'll become full circle. Alex Raymond, right? So the guy who gave me the stamp of approval to Gino, right? May 2nd, 2019, right? I'm just, 6 months in, whatever the case is. I'm the Shining Star Rey Calitri. I'm Mr. Puerto Rico, right? Whatever. Generic Mr. Puerto Rico, right? So me and him, we decided to take a trip out to XWA, which is up in, I don't know if they're still running, but they're up in Rhode Island. So, you know, he introduces me to the promoter, all this other stuff. And he's like, all right, well then, you know, you guys are going to wrestle and stuff like that. All right, cool. No problem. So, you know, I have Alex in this headlock, which I have the video, I have the footage. I just never really posted it. So I'm the only one who has it. I posted the picture, just not the footage. So I have him on a side headlock, you know, on a side headlock. And he went to go roll me backwards, and both of my feet were supposed to go up. But what ended up happening was my left foot ended up staying like this on the canvas. And then with his weight, he's, I don't know, maybe 250 or so. And I'm 195. And all that weight just came crashing down on my ankle, and it fractured my fibula.
So you're back in the swing of things. You're making towns, you know, wrestling every weekend and stuff like that. You fracture your ankle in the middle of the ring. Obviously,
fracture my ankle.
When did you know something was wrong?
The minute that we went back, and I heard the loudest pop I've ever heard in my life. I've never broken a bone in my body till that day. So once I heard that, Alex goes to me, "Yo, you okay?" Okay, so we were given 10 minutes, I believe. This happened like in 2 minutes and a half. Like we just started, man. Right? So I hear the pop. He goes down. "Hey, you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." So he goes, tells the ref, check him. And then for good measure, Alex slaps me in the face as I'm laying down, right? so the ref comes up to me, "Yo, you all right?" I said, "Yeah, dude, I gotta finish the match." At this point, I'm in a lot of pain. I feel my ankle throbbing. I have all of this adrenaline. I have all of my shooting pain from my body just straight to my left ankle, right? So it was crazy because I'm still flipping on the ropes, and I'm still doing from the outside. I did a sunset flip. I did So it was crazy. We ended up finishing the match and everything. But it was a wild night because I never thought that I would break my ankle wrestling, doing something that I love. So I felt betrayed. I'm like, "Oh, wrestling, like you screwed me out of what I've been doing." Right. So now here I am with this guy. Oh, which, by the way, you ready for the twist? He's driving with me in the car. Mm-hmm. So here I am with this guy who breaks my ankle unintentionally. Right. Now I have to drive with him coming down from Rhode Island. And, that's a 4.5 hour hike from where I'm from. So then Alex, he starts driving because he feels bad. Right. It's already like midnight or something like that. And, he starts doing one of these. And all I hear is,
he's falling asleep.
I'm like, "Dude, wake the heck up. What are you doing?" He goes, oh. I'm like, "Dude, just pull over. Let me drive." So I ended up switching seats with him, and I ended up driving I finished the drive all the way back home. But yeah, man. And then once I got to my house, I didn't know that my ankle was broken at the time. And in my home, in my front steps, I have 4 steps, right, to get inside. So no problem. I hop on one foot or whatever the case is. And then to go upstairs to my bedroom, I have 22 steps. Mm. So the 22 steps at 2, it was almost 3 a.m, right? I start crawling like a baby on the steps, like just to get up, And here I am. I'm still in my wrestling gear and all this other stuff. And it was just a complete mess that night, man. It was just,
To those people out there that say pro wrestling is fake, what do you say?
Right.
What do you say to them?
So is the Kardashians, and so is Marvel, and so is Star Wars, but people still enjoy it. If the people who say that it's fake, if you come to an event with an open mind and you say, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna really give a wrestling event an official try. Like, I'm really going to try and going to enjoy myself." I guarantee you will find someone in that roster, whatever promotion you're in, that will capture your imagination, and you'll be like, "You know what? I like this guy, or I like this girl. I like their look. I like the way they wrestle. I like the way they talk. I like the way they do the moves. I like their entrance. Because wrestling, there's something for everyone. But you just have to come in with an open mind." Yes.
For those people, I don't see you backstage. Every time I see you, my brother, I see you in a suit, dressed to the nines. Why is it that you wear a suit to pro wrestling shows?
Look, I'm even in my own home right now doing an interview in a suit, Oh, man. All right. So back when I got hurt, right? Like I told you earlier, I was Mr. Puerto Rico, right? And I felt like even though I was only in there 6 months, I felt like I wasn't really getting to where I wanted to get to, or go to other promotions and stuff like that. So I evaluated myself. Oh, and this is side note. One of the best things that ever happened to me in my wrestling career up to this point is me breaking my ankle. Because me breaking my ankle, it forced me to think bigger. It forced me to think outside of independent, right? It forced me to think, how can we get to that superstar level? What is it that we have to do to start, getting people to follow you, or start getting people to book you on different shows, or start getting more content. So what I did is I started watching old school, Nick Bockwinkel, Ric Flair, Gino Hernandez, right? So I saw myself a lot in these guys. And I said to myself, yo, like, what are the things that Rey's really into, right? Like, what am I really into? I'm like, money, cars, I like fashion, and I love women. So I'm like, why? So when I looked at it from outside of the box, I'm like, why can't I do that? No one in the independence level is really doing that. So why can't I just bring my true self, right? Because wrestling is, for anyone who knows it, it's supposed to be you turned up to like a 10, right? Whatever it is that you like, you turn it up to a 10. So I said to myself, why can't I just bring it out to life and bring it to shows, and we'll see what happens. And that's how the Shining Star was actually born, was when I was hurt.
I've never heard anybody say that the lowest part in their career was the best part in their career. So I mean, I guess in a strange way, you kind of owe Alex.
Yeah, I owe him, but that's what I owe him.
Why is it that you are dressed to the nines every time somebody sees you at a wrestling show, or looking at you right now in the Tristen Law Show?
Predominantly, whenever you go into a independent show, pick whatever promotion you want. And I've seen it because I've traveled all over the world. I've wrestled in Mexico. I've wrestled in Egypt. I've wrestled in California. I wrestled in Puerto Rico. Like I've seen more than my share of locker rooms, and they're all the same. You know, they're all the same as far as no one dresses. Everyone dresses normal, like your neighbor. Like people at the locker rooms, you see them, you're like, oh, he looks like my neighbor. Oh, he looks like the kid down the street. Oh, he looks like the pizza boy delivery guy, right? So ever since I started doing this, I stand out. Anywhere I go, I stand out. And the first thing that people say, so I'll give you two side stories. My first time in California, two of the girls that were there, I didn't even know who they were or anything like that. They were just like fans of the promotion, and they're really good friends with everybody over there. And when they seen me, the minute they saw me, they just told me this story recently because I just came back from California. She goes, yeah, the minute that I saw you, I automatically said to my friend that you're a wrestler. And I was like, what made you think that? She goes, because the way you walked in and the way you were dressed, the way you were carrying yourself when I saw you walking around and talking to people is very different from what everyone else is doing. So I'll give you, I'll give you two other stories real quick. Titan Championship Wrestling, when I started wrestling for them out here in South Jersey, right? You know, we were doing an outside show and stuff. And it was, I believe, in Tom's River, I believe it was. And I pull up with Maserati, right? So most people aren't used to seeing an $80,000 car in an independent wrestling show, right?
Right.
So here I am, you know, I pull up with the Maserati, I park and stuff like that. And I go towards the ticket area or whatever. And the lady looks at me, she goes, are you sure you're in the right place? I said, yeah, I'm talent. I'm on the show tonight. She goes, what's your name? So I'm like, Rey Calitri. She goes, oh, so you're the Rey Calitri that I've heard so much about. Yeah, you know, nice to meet you and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. Puerto Rico, when I went to Puerto Rico, it was the same thing. I go in and, you know, that's my island, that's my people, right? But even though I'm like the most light-skinned Puerto Rican you'll ever see. So when I approached them, first thing is, like, when I'm talking Spanish to them, they're looking at me like, oh, this white boy is speaking Spanish, right? But I'm speaking their dialect, right? So, you know, so they get, you know, their slang or whatever. So she gets it, and then she's like, yo, but like, what are you doing here? Again, I'm dressed up to the T and stuff. Like, I didn't have the Maserati because, you know, I'm in Puerto Rico. The Maserati is in my driveway. And I'm like, no, I'm wrestling tonight and stuff like that. She goes, oh my God, really? I say, yeah, I'm wrestling tonight. So, you know, it's always good to impress. And, you know, a lot of the guys and girls fail to realize that it's a business. At the end of the day, you know, I'll get more of a recommendation than the next guy, because when, you know, for sake of argument, we'll use Gino Caruso as an example, because when Gino Caruso recommends me, he's putting my stamp of approval. And when I go out to the next show or whatever it is, I'm not going to make him look bad. So it's always a plus.
What is
Yes.
so appealing about wrestling internationally versus here in the States?
Out here in the Northeast, anyway, wrestlers like me, you find them one in a million, right? So to speak. Tattoos, stocky, tan, all this other stuff. Wrestles pretty much the same American style. So to me, what appeals internationally is when I go to Egypt, I'm different. When I go to Mexico, I am completely different from those guys. When I went out to Puerto Rico, I'm different from all of those guys. So it makes me feel better because now I stand out. We were talking about earlier on how, what do you do? What moment are you going to give these people, and what do you do so you can stand out? The number one thing that's going to stand out when people see me is my look when I'm in those areas. That's the first thing. And I've heard it plenty of times. And this is why I continue getting invited to Mexico, because I look different. That's the first thing. I could wrestle, I could talk, my gear is on point, I'm professional at all times. The list goes on, but the first thing is I look different. So for me, it's always been a dream to wrestle internationally, just because I feel that there's more opportunity for me out there. Now, I'm not speaking for anyone else, but there's more opportunities for me over there to grow and to further my career than, let's say, here.
This brother right here, he's inspirational. I always tell you that I want to be like you. But that's our running joke. People don't know that's our running joke.
Yes.
But every time I look at you, bro, I'm like, you know what? He's going to make it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
So WWE or AEW, like, are you interested? Are you not interested?
I mean, the phone's not ringing, so I can't really answer that question. You know what I'm saying? I have to see. For me, this is all for me, per my mind, per the way I think. I don't worry about stuff like that, because once you start putting that stuff in your mind of, I have friends like this, close personal friends, who they're like, oh, I got to get signed. I'm trying to get WWE. And I'm like, okay, good for you, but you're not having fun. And once you start putting that contract mentality in your mind, which is okay. Listen, it's okay to have goals and all that other stuff. But what ends up happening is, when those goals aren't met, when you give yourself a deadline of, oh yeah, within a year I want to do it, you stop having fun. You stop, like, your passion is thinning out. Everything bothers you. You don't want to wrestle. You want to be picky. You don't want to do certain things. You don't want to do the jobs for certain people. You don't want to. So it stops having, you stop having fun. So then it starts becoming more of a second job instead of a passion. So for me, that's the way I see things. I continue to have fun. Of course, I do have goals, but I make them micro goals, because I also have to be realistic with, within my time frame and with everything else going on. So to me, WWE and AEW, that stuff is not in my mind. I'm not going to say it's in there somewhere, but it's not in the forefront, because I want to continue having fun. I want to continue wrestling internationally. I want to continue building my brand, building my name, and I want to continue just rocking out and doing the one thing that I love doing, pro wrestling.
You talked about you going to Egypt and you spent some time. I saw you on your Instagram. I saw you out there doing your thing. Right? I saw the videos, bro. So how did you get to Egypt?
I bought the plane ticket. I got a valid U.S. passport.
No, but they booked it. You went over there. You did some wrestling work.
Yeah. So I went over there for my birthday, because that's, one of the things on my bucket list is to see, first of all, the last remaining 7 wonders of the world, which is the pyramids of Giza. So that's always been in my head. And I also have a new list of wanting to see the new 7 wonders of the world, which I did over the summer, which one of them is the pyramid of Chichen Itza, which is in Mexico. So I got one down, but not to sidetrack on the story of Egypt, but I went for my birthday, and you see, I don't know if I have luck. I don't know what it is about me, but usually whenever I travel, I travel a lot, I reach out to the local promotions or wherever it is that I'm traveling to, and I just reach out and I send them my stuff, and, hey, if you have any shows or anything available coming up, or maybe I could come in and train with you guys, or, I make my services available to them. And they, like 99% of the time, they reach back out to me and they say, yeah, we would love to have you on. Whether it's a show or a training seminar, or come in and we'll do some videos, or, whatever, we'll work together. So when Egypt popped up, I reached out to the one guy who's out there. And, again, I told him, I sent him all my stuff and everything. And he goes, well, look, right now we're not doing any shows because, COVID protocols, everything is different out here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I said, okay, cool. Are you running training? Who goes on vacation to go train at wrestling? Not a lot of people, right? But I sure enough did. And he goes, yeah, sure, come down and all this other stuff. So we went on a Tuesday, and it was super cool, man, because, I walked in, and at first he's leading the class, and it was me, him, and 12 other young guys. And he's leading the class, and I'm just doing the warm-up drills with everyone else. I'm just part of the class. I'm minding my business.
Right.
And then he looks at me, and he goes, okay, now it's your turn. I'm like, it's my turn. Like, what are you talking about? It's my turn. Mind you, I didn't go there for any reason other than just to train with these guys. He goes, yeah, now you could teach the class. I said, what? I said, me? I started looking around. I started doing the Will Smith, French Prince of Bel-Air. I'm like, me? So super surreal to me, because first I didn't even plan for that to happen, right? So I had nothing in my head planned out as to what to do or anything like that. So as I'm looking at them, they're running around and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, so what are some good basic drills that we could work on that these guys could look at and they could apply it to whatever it is that they're doing? So I told them to, run the ropes and, stuff, just so I could have an eye to see what's going on. Nothing like what we do over here. So I said, okay, perfect. We're going to work on footworking drills. We're going to work on blow-up drills. And then we did the good old famous Tennessee spot. So listen, that Tennessee spot is older than I don't know what. And over here, it may not work that much, but over there, those guys, it was like I brought them a slice of pizza or something. They were so amazed by it.
Real quick, for everybody that doesn't understand, explain to them what the Tennessee spot is.
Let's say me and Tristen are wrestling, and I am the babyface. Tristen is the heel, as usual. Tristen, at first, he'll hit me with a hip toss, and then he'll get back up and whatever, and then he'll hit me with arm drag, and then he'll get up or whatever, and then he'll hit me with a body slam, right? And then he'll showboat to the crowd. I'm the big bad guy. And then me in turn, I'll do like this cool flip or whatever the case is, and then I turn the tables on Tristen. Then now, when I do the hip toss, arm drag, body slam, I'm doing it in a fast-paced motion so that when audiences see it and they see that the face is coming back to life and has the upper hand in the match, audiences usually go crazy for it. So that is the old school Tennessee spot.
Obviously, when you teach people how to do things, you take things from it yourself. What did you take from that experience, Rey?
That wrestling it's all the same language. It's all the same language because the moves are all the same. The only thing that's different is the way we speak to each other. They speak Arabic, I speak English. But other than that, running the ropes is the same, doing our hip toss, doing the arm drag, doing the close, everything's all the same. So I took from that wrestling is a universal language, and it's accepted everywhere once you're into wrestling.
When you're not wrestling,
yes,
what is most important to you?
The time with my daughter, of course, because I still do see her at a limited time. And more so now because now with all the traveling that I'm doing with wrestling, she has school and stuff like that, so I can't really have her miss classes. So the little bit of free time that I do have, I dedicate it to her and to just be home. People see me and stuff like that. They'd be like, oh, this guy's going out all the time. But I'm more of a big homebody because I'm always out of the house. I'm always traveling. I'm always working. I'm always wrestling. I'm always doing something. And I just like to lounge out just like everyone else and watch a good movie and, nice and low key.
WWE, AEW, New Japan Wrestling, or some other top name promotion that can change your financial quality of life is listening right now. Why is Rey Calitri the best person to be added to their roster?
Well, it's real simple for me. I would want to go international, of course, because that's where my forte is. But what would make me what makes me a better candidate than everyone else because I have it. You could define it as whatever it is that you want. You know, I can be entertaining. I can do wrestling. I showboat. I got the looks. I work out, so I got the body. I have the mouthpiece. I have the mind for it. There's so many attributes and so much stuff that I bring to a company that if you look at my body of work that I've done predominantly by myself, all that video production, all this other stuff is pretty much by myself.
Let's say you make $1 million from pro wrestling. What would you do with the money?
Invest in real estate. People will always need somewhere to live. You have to, because what are you going to do? You're going to go buy a Lamborghini, and then what? What are you going to do? You're going to go buy a yacht in Miami, and then what?
I mean, you can live in a Lamborghini, but it's pretty small.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Who is Rey Calitri?
I am very outspoken. I'm very truthful. This is why a lot of people don't like talking to me, because I tell you how it is. I don't fluff things up. I'm very strong-minded. I don't really care for people's opinions. I'm very self-motivated too. I don't really need anyone's approval or hey, you deserve this, or hey, you earned that. I don't need none of that. I'm very self-driven, very hardworking. I'm a good listener. I listen to good people. But I'm also not built for the BS. Like you're not gonna fool me. You're not gonna try to play me. And I distance myself from all of that stuff.
What is next for Rey Calitri?
Next for me, Mexico. Mexico's coming up. I have Costa Rica coming up. Because we're still talking about wrestling, right? We're still. I do have Costa Rica here in 3 weeks. I'm trying to get my name out there. I have this promotion that I'm talking to, and hopefully you see a post where I'm wrestling in Costa Rica somewhere, and then I have Mexico coming up. I think it's in 2 weeks. So I got to check my calendar. I'm not too sure, but we'll be back in Tijuana, Mexico, which we were there. I don't know 3 weeks ago or something like that.
Rey, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me and letting the viewers or the listeners of the Tristen Law Show get to know Rey Calitri, but they might want to know more about you. So tell everybody how they could find you outside of the Tristen Law Show.
Outside of the Tristen Law Show on Instagram, this is kind of funny and everyone freaking laughs at me all the time when I say it. It's Papi Fresh. So it's PAP1 Fresh. And everyone's always like, oh, why is it Papi Fresh? I'm like, dude, I'm Spanish and I'm always fresh, and I'm a papi. So they, one goes with the other, you know what I mean? So it's Papi Fresh, right? Facebook, Rey Calitri. Twitter, Calitri Rey. Whoever the guy is on Twitter who has the handle Rey Calitri, reach out to me, please. I'll buy the handle off you, please. And on YouTube, Rey Calitri also as well.
That was international pro wrestling star, El Campeón de Campeones, the rising star Rey Calitri. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time here on the Tristen Law Show.